And now,
introducing the one, the only.
Now let me introduce to you
lively talk with successful people, barely filtered. This is the Jenna Ben Show.
Hello. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Jenna Ben Show. I'm your host, Jenna Benamy, and with us today, I have Justin Dhillon, a.k.a. The Wrestling Classic on Instagram. What's up, Justin?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Introduce your cousin.
This is my cousin, Taryn.
Hi. Nice to meet you guys.
Follow him on Instagram, too, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So Taryn's kind of like helping you out, driving you around while you're visiting.
Yeah, every time I come to California, like he lives out here, which is great, and he's actually going to school in the LA area now, which is even better for me, but every time I come out here, make sure I get around, have a place to stay. I don't have to worry too much about the other things like that, the amenities,
Yeah, totally. Okay, so Justin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm 28 years old. I'm from Vancouver, Canada. I grew up a huge wrestling fan, and I started the Wrestling Classic back in like 2014, and it blew up, and it's opened up a lot of opportunities for me to do a lot of things within the wrestling industry. I meet a lot of people I never thought I'd be able to meet and stuff like that. We'll talk more about that for sure. But then I also got to do my own fair share of podcasts. I've done my reps. I had the Wrestling Classic show. I had the Squared Circle DNA show, and then now just the TWC show, which is the most recent one that we've been rolling with. But yeah.
Okay, so Justin found me on Instagram a while back.
Sure did.
And so if you can remember, because I don't even remember, like, how did you find my page? And then what was your impression of the Jenna Ben Show when you found me?
Oh man, how did I find your page? It must have been through Dash Radio, because I've been following them for a couple of years.
That makes sense.
And the show's great. The conversations you have with people are great. And I'm a little smart knowing where to plant my network connections where I'm gonna move forward. So I kind of thought that out, and
Well, okay, so full disclosure, I'm helping Justin get his show at Dash started.
Much appreciated.
His show is going to be on wrestling, and it's going to be on the talk station that you guys tuned into as well. So I'll give you guys a little heads up on when his showtime surfaces and when you get that off the ground.
I know, and I'm really excited about that. I love Dash Radio. I use the app all the time.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, listen to music that that is actually good music without the ads and stuff. It's like a blessing, dude. It's great. And then the talking shows on there, they're actually interesting. There's a bazillion podcasts out there, and it's cool to have a place where the ones that are actually on there, like, 'cause you can go to Apple, you can go to Spotify, and there's all these podcasts. You don't know what's really good. Like, if it's on Dash, it's kind of been pre-approved to be kind of good.
Yeah, there's a long waiting list.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a really cool thing, and I appreciate the fact that I get the opportunity if there's a long waiting list. So
yeah, totally. I put in a good word for you.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So today, guys, here on the Jenna Ben Show, we talk about my guest professional stories. So, how they got started in their careers, how they achieved success, where they stumbled, what they learned from their, quote, failures, and what's next for them. And today, we're actually going to get into some big fighters who kind of vacillated between MMA to wrestling and then back. And we're going to get Justin's input on those.
Yeah.
So, Justin, before we get into your professional story, how is LA different from Canada?
Okay, honestly, the reason why I like LA more than Canada is it does seem like every other day there's an opportunity here. I can be in Vancouver months at a time, and it almost feels like nothing's happening. There is a creative scene there. It's not as strong as I'd say, and I can't speak for all of Canada. I can speak on Vancouver because I know Toronto kind of has a really good creative scene.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Vancouver, I think more of the people in that area are more... The success in Vancouver are like the people that are like in real estate or in different fields that aren't really so creative. So for someone like me that's trying to go out there and connect with people that are also doing things similar like me, and we can bring each other up in that creative environment that doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
Like I come out here and I'm only out here for a week, and I got something to do every day this week.
Nice.
And that's not something that happens in Vancouver. I'll go back home and there's nothing going on, and I'm just like, oh. And honestly, at times it makes me kind of lose the motivation and the drive. I have to get stuff done because nothing's really happening. Well, out here I always feel like, oh, there's opportunity. Like I can talk to this person, we can do this, and I'm just full of ideas, and I feel like I can actually express them out here rather than back home in Canada. Not that Canada's not a beautiful place. It's always home. Like, I love going home, but that's the biggest difference for me.
Okay. Now, what do you do professionally outside of the Wrestling Classic page?
So it's changed a lot, and I think the problem with that is because I think deep down inside I know this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. So everything else I do end up doing ends up being kind of temporary. I just can't get, driven within doing it. when I first started the page, I was working selling phones, and this was years ago in 2014. And
for like a provider?
Yeah, a provider. The Virgin Mobile, they're all right.
Nice,
You guys
okay.
check them out. But
They're all right.
they're all right. And then in that time, I kind of transferred and got a job in a bank, and I did that for 4 years. It was, and at any point I can go back and do that. But
right.
once again, it just long term. I never looked. I was like, I'm going to do this forever. Then I also got into some real estate. My brother does real estate, so worked in some commercial real estate, did stuff like that. And I'm always doing something, but at the end of the day, it's always more like, how can I make this grow, and how can I make this my only thing I'm doing, because it's the only thing that, like, it doesn't feel like work to me.
Right.
Like I wake up, I do it. I know everything that's going on. It's not like a 9 to 5, like 24/7. I'm on board. Like, I know what's going on in the wrestling world. I'm connected with people. I'm coming up with some new idea, something I want to share, or something to talk about. And that's, I don't know, like, that's, if I could just do that, that'd be the best thing,
So you're working towards that.
100%, always.
Okay. But so your income comes from banking or real estate, or?
It comes from both, actually, because I do make money off this. I've made money off this.
Yeah.
I've got a solid amount every month coming through sponsors and whatnot for the wrestling stuff, as well as, sometimes real estate, sometimes, just jobs that I've done here and there. The one thing that I've got to do a little bit in the past couple of months, which has been really cool, is I have friends that are starting their own businesses and stuff, and because they see how successful I am with social media and stuff, I'm usually helping them launch their social media accounts, getting paid to set up their websites, all self-taught mostly. Like, I did take marketing in school, but like, to understand social media, to build a website, like, to generate sales and stuff, their website, like, that's all stuff I learned because I was doing this wrestling stuff, and I taught myself.
Right.
So friends of mine will come up to me and be like, yo, like, hey, let's do a 3-month contract, and I'll get you, and I'm starting this business, like, say it's an appliance business, or like they're a mortgage broker, like, hey, can you set up my website? Can you set up, can you help me with my social media? Like, how do you do this and that? And it's like, it's crazy because it's all stuff I kind of just taught myself, but now I get paid for it. And it's
awesome.
not something that I have to do forever, which still allows me to stay in my lane and try to figure out my thing, and still also get income that way.
So do you live alone, or are you with family in Vancouver? Okay, so you don't have to, your expenses are low, which is, you set yourself up for success essentially, because you have this end goal of really like working in the wrestling realm. Yeah. And, I guess from a marketing perspective on your Instagram page, but you don't have this huge book of expenses.
No.
So,
and I think like it's when I worked in banking, for example, and this is the thing about working in banking, is like, you see everybody and their lifestyles and their expenses. And at some point I kind of realized, I'm like, this whole concept of moving out when you're 18 and trying to go, like, a lot of these people are struggling, because looking back from when I started the page myself, I was 23 years old or something, and who I am today, like, I'm way more mature than I was back then. And the decisions I make now are way more like done with experience rather than what I did back then. So when you're 18 and you move out, like, I've seen a lot of kids like put themselves in debt and just struggling because, they move out of home, and then they buy their first thing, then they're buying all their furniture and stuff for the house, then they're buying cars, and then they're in debt. And I'm like,
utilities, it adds up.
In our culture, it's not intended for us to move out when we're 18.
Right.
They'd rather us stay home longer than us move out. And I think it really benefits us because I've been able to save a ton. Like, I think in 2018, because I was able to work, save a ton, and just like have the freedom to be like, oh, I don't need to work for like 3-4 months. I can actually just hang out and go do stuff. I came down to California and I hung out here for 4 months.
Right.
And I was only able to do that because of, the decisions I kind of made at a younger age. So I'm not telling anyone not to move out when you're 18 or anything. Like, everybody's experiences in lifestyles and what happens to them is different. But for me, it worked out. It worked out good. And I think you're right. Like, that really helps with me not having the amount of expenses most people might have.
Yeah. So tell us about your culture a little bit.
Well, I'm Punjabi, or Sikh is the religion, but I'm Punjabi, we're the northern region of India and Punjab. I was born in Canada, though, so I'm like a second generation Canadian born, third generation. But I'm really in tune with it. Like, I love my culture, man. Like, I always joke around, like, if you ever look at my playlist, like, I listen to all kinds of music. Yeah. But my dad really got me in tune with like Punjabi music, obviously, but also like Bollywood music. Like, I grew up with Bollywood
cute.
music. I'm a sucker for the romantic
screwing in the
Bollywood
light bulbs
stuff.
and stuff.
Yeah. Like, I'm all about it. Like, and it surprises people sometimes because they don't see that coming. But I love our culture. I love our food. And honestly, sometimes I feel kind of bad for people that don't really know their culture, because everyone kind of comes from somewhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's some roots. If you look further further far back, like
far enough.
Yeah, you'll find out kind of where your origins and your ancestors came from.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool to know that because it really does kind of help you define yourself. Like when I meet someone and they're like, "Oh, I'm Canadian," I'm like, "What does that even mean?"
Right.
Like, "Oh, I'm American." I'm like, that's not, like I can't relate to that. And I feel like someone with culture, because every culture is different. Like a lot of cultures do value family in a different way,
yes,
and they can handle different kind of spices and food. And I think the coolest thing is being able to speak.
They can handle different kinds of spices.
Oh man, I'm telling you.
I love it.
And the coolest thing is like I don't think like it's almost like a secret superpower to be able to speak 2 languages. Like to be able to walk down the street and hear someone saying something and be like, "Oh, I totally understand what they're saying." Like that's actually really cool because I don't. And if you don't have that, I'm like, how is that? That's so weird. Like I don't know.
And it unites you a little bit. So, have you come across any fellow Punjabi wrestling fans?
Oh, a ton. And so, like briefly, like we'll talk about how I started the page. Like I started it by accident. If I would be blunt, like my ex-girlfriend didn't want me to have Instagram, so
yes.
So I deactivated my Instagram.
Shout out to her.
Yeah, shout out to her because if it wasn't for her, none of this would have happened.
Oh
so
my
shout out
God.
to you.
Wait, are we gonna call her out?
No.
No.
Well, sure. Her name's Justine, which is weird because my name's Justin, so it's just
Justin and
with an E.
Justine. That's cute.
Yeah, and her birthday was the day after mine, so it's really weird. But she didn't want me to have Instagram. She was those issues there, and so I deactivated my Instagram account and. I've loved wrestling since I was a kid, man. Like my older brother's 10 years older than me. So when I was born, he was like already watching wrestling. He was a Hulkamaniac. He was like recording them on tapes and he got me hooked. Like I was born into like having all the action figures and the magazines. Like he gets upset sometimes now because he's like, this is my fault. But
you stole it.
Yeah, no, it's his fault. He really wants me to work with him. So every time the wrestling stuff, he's like, this is my fault. Like I got you hooked on this stuff. But like yeah, so like I've always been in tune with wrestling. Even like the years when I was in high school and I kind of stopped watching it a bit because, you know, they put SmackDown on Fridays and I was usually out with my buddies. Like I still always watched religiously every Monday. I was always with it and I used to always be on the internet, on the chat rooms and the forums talking to people because I love connecting with other wrestling fans. There was a point in the late 90s where wrestling boomed and it was pop culture. Like I can drop names like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and D-Gen, and people know who that is. After that kind of died out around 2002, a lot of people kind of stopped watching wrestling. So then I was like, where do I connect with wrestling fans? And that's where I'd find people like online and, you know, I'd just jump in chat rooms. If there was results, people would be on there. And I'm like, I kind of missed that. I missed it, you know. It was always kind of like a form of escapism for me. So I kind of missed having a place where I could talk to wrestling fans. So I'm okay. I kind of used Instagram for that. Like I'd go on WWE's page and I'd comment and I'd start talking to people when things happen and we'd go back and forth. So I was like, why not just make my own wrestling page? And I looked around on Instagram and most of the wrestling pages were like focusing on independent wrestling or those weird pages where they pretended to role play accounts or they pretended to be the wrestlers, or there was stuff just focusing on the modern day stuff. And then there would be like one or two that kind of did classic wrestling, but I'm like, I know I can do it better. So then I made a page and I was watching this event and I didn't intend for it to be anything. And I just kind of made the page and I started posting classic pictures with hashtags, whatnot. And I kind of did an internship at handling people's social media and stuff. So
nice. Okay.
I kind of knew how to, like I said, I took marketing in school. So I kind of knew how to rock Instagram in the early days. And this is pre-stories, pre-videos, pre-videos, just pictures. And I just started posting stuff. But the biggest thing for me was like, I don't want anybody to know. Mostly my ex-girlfriend. So
wait, tell that story.
What do you mean?
You introduced it, but you didn't tell the full version.
So it just wasn't a healthy relationship.
No, so she didn't want you to have Instagram because she didn't want you liking other girls' photos. So you created the secret page that had no connection to your real name. Yeah. And then you got access to all the beauties on Instagram.
So I'll tell you how we got there because the girls got introduced in a weird way. So basically, first things first, I went on my personal page. Family, friends, I blocked everybody.
Stop it.
I blocked every single person so they couldn't follow the wrestling page and they couldn't find it. Secondly, I never shared my name. Never shared my face. I was this mystery guy behind the wrestling classic. It came to a point where I was like, in my brain, I'm like Batman. I'm like, there's Bruce Wayne, me and my glasses going to work at the bank, and then there's Batman that goes out. He's giving wrestling to everybody.
Yeah.
But and that went on for a couple of years, right? And I got interviewed one time. Someone wanted to interview me because they saw the page blowing up and things happening, and they were called the Kaboom magazine or something. And that went online, obviously, and I kind of said my name and stuff on there, and I guess my ex Googled my name one day, and she found the interview, and she's like, what? And I'm like,
But you had already broken up at that point.
No. We broke up like the year after that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So maybe I wasn't the best boyfriend, but that was like the only secret. That was the only actual secret. The rest
You're
of it
like,
was
I
just
just
paranoia.
want to do wrestling.
I just want to do it. That was my form of escapism. Like we'd fight. I'm like, I got the wrestling page. You know, it's a weird psychological thing, you know?
Yeah.
But then also like I started printing t-shirts and stuff. And just like I said, like I'm always trying to like, how can I monetize this? How can I make more of this? Like, let's get people repping their brand. So 2014, I say I kind of just started the page, built a following, and cool stuff kind of happened. Like
And it was easier to build a following back then than now.
100%.
So right now you're almost at 600,000 followers.
Yeah, and
would you say that you acquired the majority of those followers prior to like 2018?
110%, because it was easier to do it back then, and there wasn't those many wrestling pages. If I can tell you anything about when I first started my page to now, is like there's a ton of wrestling pages. A lot of them that stole stuff from me. A lot of them got creative and came up with their own ideas. But there's so many wrestling pages. Like I think the only reason why I still kind of stand out is because people know like, oh, he's been around first.
Right.
And the connections I made, and then the way I try to grow. Because I think a lot of people, and I try to encourage people, I'm like, you know, like social media, like I didn't know what was going to happen, but you can do a lot if you just kind of try a little bit, you know? Well,
I think let's talk about that. So what are some of the tools that you use to continue to grow? Because it's tough in this age, like all the algorithm changes, and there's only, you can have so many followers, but only a percentage of them actually see your account, and then Instagram will punish you for certain things. Like
dangerous to me all the time.
Yeah, and I want to talk about those things. So what are some tips?
I always think, and anytime someone messages me, and I get it a lot, like, hey man, do you have any advice? Like, I want to start a wrestling page. Like, you inspired me to make a wrestling page. And I'm like, I think the biggest thing that people need to do, like mostly if you're going to make a fan page of any sort, whether it's about cars, whether it's about wrestling, whether it's about hockey or football, like if you're going to make any sort of fan page, be more than what you're just posting. Like content's great and everyone loves great content, but I'm more likely to follow somebody that has a little bit of a personality, like be a person, like be someone they can relate to, someone whose opinions they value, connect, engage with your followers. Yeah. Don't just post stuff. And I think that's the biggest thing to grow now. Like it's because it's hard. Like I was able to post old school stuff and kind of grow and then slowly start engaging with people and slowly trying to do different things. But I think the more they see you do, the more you have the opportunity to grow and be more than just, because it's hard now. The algorithm's hard. Like you got to try to get people when they come on Instagram to want to go to your page rather than like just if it's not in their feed, they're not going to see it. Like they got to come on and be like, oh, I wonder what the Wrestling Classic posted today.
So let's start from the beginning. Before they even go to the Wrestling Classic page and they come across your page, maybe from the Explorer page, because now, guys, there's no longer that following column where you can go and see what other people are liking. Yeah. So you're not even getting exposure from like your followers at this point. Yeah. So you're just in the Explorer page if you're lucky, or if it's like people you may know or may like or something like that. So from there, you have to start with good content because Instagram is very visual. Yeah. So I would say the quality of the image has to be good.
No, for sure.
Right? That's where it starts. And then you're talking about engagement. So then your caption needs to be good.
Caption needs to be good. I do a lot of people, and I don't know why they say it because I don't know. I'm nothing really special. And when they say it, it gets confused me. But like, I'll always get that, it's so cool that you have like 500,000 followers and you still like reply to the comments and stuff. And I'm like, well, like that's important, I think. Like, sure.
It is important.
And mostly like, because a lot of people do, I'm trying to like now gear it towards a podcast. Like, if something happened on TV, if you want to hear my opinion on it, go to the podcast. But initially, like it was like if something happened on TV, I'd give my opinion on the page. I'm also really big at fantasy booking. Like mostly with wrestling, you can do that. So I'll come up with my own ideas of where they should go, and people love that. But
wait, you're big on what?
Like fantasy booking.
Oh, okay.
So like obviously for those who don't know, and I don't want to kill Santa for you, but wrestling's obviously scripted.
Right.
And it's like a television show and it's like a soap opera. So like everything's predetermined. Yeah. So, there is that option of like, oh, if I was going to move forward with it, like I would have this happen and that happen and this is that. Or like, oh, this is the match I want to see to WrestleMania, but this is how I would get there. And the weird thing is I'm a sucker for stories, like I grew up reading books as a kid, and I love like storybooks. I love like The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and like Bridge to Terabithia. Like that's stuff I read as a kid. And as I got older, I love stories.
Bridge to Terabithia.
Yeah. And then as I got older.
Oh my God, I remember that.
Yeah, and like To Kill a Mockingbird and The Outsiders, like The Pearl. Like I loved reading books when I was a kid. And then as I got older, I loved movies and like the reason why I love music so much is most of my favorite songs and things I love about music is music back in the day, there were stories. Rap was stories, rock was stories. They were telling you a story. Then my brain gets in this weird place where now when I listen to music, whether it's like even classical music or something, I'm like, how would this fit in a movie? How would this fit in the story? Because, you know, how does it relate to someone's life or relate to a certain situation? Everything to me is a story. And since I was a kid, I've been booking wrestling in my head. Whether it's outside playing backyard wrestling with my friends, I'm booking them at. And even when I didn't know wrestling was scripted, I was scripting matches between me and my friends. Okay, you're going to do this next week. Now you're going to get me, and I'm going to come back and get you. Like,
Wait. You didn't know wrestling was scripted when you first saw it?
no, I first saw it when I was like 4 years old. I think I found out when I was like 12, 13.
Yeah.
But then
Was that the same time you figured out Santa wasn't real?
No. I don't know. Actually, my sister and brother, I'm the youngest of three. They tried to keep that real for me for a real long time.
Oh, bless their hearts.
Yeah, but you know, when I found out it wasn't real, but that kind of made me appreciate it more. Because realistically, what wrestling is, like, and this is when people come at me and like, why do you still watch wrestling? It's fake. I'm like, why do you guys love Marvel so much? It's the same thing. It's an action movie that never ends.
Right.
That's all it really is. They write the script, they tell the characters, and it's a movie that never ends. And that's what wrestling is. If you are sitting there like, hey man, don't spoil what happens at the end of Endgame, like, don't spoil what happens at the end of WrestleMania for me, man. It's the same thing.
I remember being at a wrestling event.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was called. Was it PWC?
PWG. It was here in
PWG. And I remember we were like DMing like from the event, and I was like, yo, I'm having a hard time with this.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, you gave me some advice, and you're like, just try to block out the doubt and just like be in the moment.
Yeah, you got to suspend your disbelief.
Yeah.
You got to know that what you're watching isn't real. But like when you go into a movie, okay, say you go watch, I don't know, what's an action movie that came out recently that's really popular? Say if you go watch Fast and the Furious or something, right?
Which I love.
Okay. A lot of the stuff that happens in the movie doesn't happen in real life.
Right.
They're not doing those things. The Rock can't beat up 7 people at once. Like,
well, when you have Higan Machado training you, then you can. Sure. And but shout out to my boy Higan.
You go into the movie and you suspend your disbelief because it's a form of escapism for you. And in that hour and a half, or however long that movie is, you're in that world. That's what wrestling is. When you watch wrestling, you're not sitting there saying, wow, this is so choreographed. Like, da-da-da. Like, do you go to a concert like, wow, this dance is so choreographed? No, in that moment, you watch those people dancing like, damn, this is a show. And that's what wrestling is.
Here's the difference, though.
Yeah.
I'm developing a love for wrestling, right? But it's more of an acquired taste for me. So when I would look at it originally, I think I would say that looks staged, where like I'm watching Fast and the Furious, and I feel like that looks like a real solid, believable production because the music and the actors and the facial expressions and the moves, like everything is very seamless. Yeah. But sometimes wrestling doesn't feel seamless, so therefore it's not believable.
I think more nowadays than before, because even now, sometimes I'll see some stuff, and you went to PWG. Okay, a lot of their stuff like comes off very choreographed because like there's no way that would happen naturally.
Right.
And that is a problem today. I think that is an issue in wrestling today because when we were younger and watched it, it seemed a little bit more real. The characters are believable, and the stuff they did seemed like you wouldn't plan that ahead. Now some things do look very choreographed and planned ahead. But then that's kind of like saying the difference between going to a movie in theaters and watching theater.
Sure. And I've never been a fan of theater.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you go watch theater, like you know that what's going on. It's stripped down.
Yes.
Going to a highly produced movie.
Yep.
And that's kind of wrestling. It's a stripped down form of maybe watching. Like when you go live, it's definitely more stripped down than watching on TV. Because when you're watching on TV, you got the announcers telling you the story. Right. You got the production value and stuff. When you go live, then it's like theater. And I don't know how else to describe it because I always say it's the greatest form of art and athleticism. Not the greatest of either one, but as a combination because you got to be super athletic to do it. You can't just go. No one can just go in there and do it. And it's art. It's just it's storytelling.
It is. You know? You have to be. You have to have a good presence about you. You have to be aware of your facial expressions and your body movements.
All of it matters.
And your energy level, your connection with the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. You really have to be a performer.
And so the biggest thing for me is like mostly with the Wrestling Classics, something else I did that maybe this would be good for some of you listening out there that want to start your own wrestling page or even sports page. I've never wrestled. I've never really laced my boots and went in the ring and done the thing. So I hate criticizing that aspect of wrestling on social media.
Right.
And I think that's one of the reasons. And I'm taking this from what people have said to me, like people within the industry, whether they're wrestlers or people that work backstage. Like the one thing we love about your page is, you state your opinions about stories and what's going on, this and that. And the thing is, when I state my opinions, I don't expect everyone to agree with me. Tell me I'm wrong and let's debate about it.
Right.
I love that, right?
Yeah.
there is a stigma because there's a portion of people that watch wrestling and they take it too seriously.
Yeah.
And they're critiquing it like to the bare minimum. They're saying this is wrong and that's wrong and that match was bad. I'm like, how can we judge a match if we've never had a match? I can't tell you what they're doing in the ring, what's right and what's wrong, but I can tell you how I feel about the story, how I feel about the characters, why the story, because I think a good match is based off if the story is really good. Mm-hmm. So like, I can talk about that, but I can't talk about what's happening in the ring, like to the point, like I can tell you something's really bad and like that looked really bad. Like there's no way I could believe what just happened there, but I can't. And I think that's a bad thing about the wrestling. If you're on social media and do anything with wrestling, just don't be like a know-it-all smart fan that thinks they know everything, but you've never really done anything in the industry. So
I can tell you, as you guys listening to the show know, I'm pretty MMA heavy and I've only been at it for like 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
I've never fought. I've never trained. I mean, I trained like 2 or 3 times with some fighters, some pro fighters, and they showed me some moves. Yeah. And I got to tell you, man, Steve Orozco, he kicked my butt in that cage. Like I seriously could not walk for 5 days. Like I had one thigh because he was showing me a lot of wrestling moves because that's his background. And I forgot what the move is called. It's something with an S, but basically you kind of go into a lunge and then like you slide forward. So you're kind of like almost like dragging your leg. And anyway, not the best explanation, but I basically had to do 150 lunges that day. And I don't do lunges in general. So my quad was just like, I am really mad at you. Yeah. And I had a hard time walking.
It's
so
crazy
I just want to like give a shout out to everybody training in wrestling, in MMA. You know, when I did the cage interviews at Lights Out Extreme Fighting, it's so much easier to look at and judge and be like, oh, this person should have done that, or, you know, why didn't you do this move in the moment? But when you're in there and you're physically exhausted, you know,
they'll be like, this person messed up. Like, if you look at it in a humorous way, because so it's okay to have fun with wrestling. If someone messed up something and you're doing it like for jokes, but if you're actually giving like the wrestlers a hard time, like this person sucks because they couldn't do like that, like why are you doing that? You don't. They could have had an off day, and we're all human. Like, don't get me wrong, like. Maybe they're hungover or something. And they're like, we don't know what their situations are. Right. Mostly in wrestling, you're on the road pretty much like 365 days a year. It's not like MMA. You have like and don't get me wrong, they train really hard in MMA. It just, with wrestling, you train really hard. You're on the road all the time. It's not just the shows that are on television. They're doing house shows during the weekdays.
Right.
There's very little time off. You go home like once or twice a week. And this is stuff I know through listening to podcasts, reading books, autobiographies.
It's a lot. Like it's more than MMA.
It's a lot. So like if these guys have off days, like give them a break. Just enjoy the show. Like I think that's the biggest thing. And I think the problem is when people get too analytic about it, they don't enjoy the show. So don't get me wrong. On our show, we get analytic about it. We break things down.
Yeah.
But I'm never trashing anyone or saying it. Like, you know, I'm trying to make the biggest thing for me is to get people to appreciate wrestling and understand why they should appreciate wrestling, or remember why they used to watch, or remember why they watch now, or try to get them to watch again. Mm-hmm. If you follow my page, it's a combination of old school wrestling and current wrestling.
And babes.
Okay, yeah.
Go to the Wrestling Classic on Instagram for babes.
So back when the algorithm was normal and everything would come down properly, I used to post a lot in one day. I'd post like 30, 40 posts a day at some point. Like that was the thing when I first started. That technique will not work anymore. But back when I first started Instagram, it worked, and that's how my following grew.
What will it do to you now if you do that?
I think people will just unfollow you. I don't even think they'll see half of them. And that's the thing. Like, if I even post 4 things today, like half of the stuff won't be seen because it's too many posts in one day.
So Instagram won't allow it. If you post, like I think I've posted at most 2 or 3 posts in a day, and I feel like the number of the engagement is low. Yeah. So like the number of people who see it and then interact with your page is reduced.
And it's weird because sometimes if there's a show, for example, like today's SmackDown's on, so I might have to post some stuff about it. So it'll probably end up being like 6 posts today. Uh-huh. Some of those posts won't end up getting a ton of likes till like tomorrow or 2 days later because it shows up later. Yeah. And it's weird.
I noticed that too. Yeah. Like I don't get the full amount of like the majority of likes for like 24 hours.
Our brains are wired to think like, oh, if they don't get a lot of likes like in the first hour, something must be wrong. Yeah. It's just it's Instagram's fault. It's really their fault.
It's intentional. But I noticed with them that you get the majority of your likes in like the first not even hour. I'd say like 20 minutes.
Yeah. And then it kind of
and then they're like, all right, that's enough.
Yeah, and what I found with my page, and it's so weird because how Instagram works now, where it's like the things you like the most are the first things that are going to show up when you open your page, is like my likes have kind of gone down. But if you look at the impressions, the engagement, and the saves, they're wild. Sometimes I have more saves than saves than I do likes, because people don't want wrestling to pop up as the first thing when they open the Instagram feed. Now back to what we're talking about in the first place is connected to that, because when I was posting a lot of wrestling, everyone was opening Instagram and they just kept saying wrestling. So I'd have guys message me, be like, hey, and this is just the society we live in today. Like, hey, bro, like, I really love wrestling. I love the stuff you post, but, you know, like, I come on Instagram to creep girls. And I'm like...
I love that they're being honest.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I can incorporate girls to the page. That's not a problem. And initially, I just kind of... just picking girls out and post them on the page, you know? Kind of branding it my own way, talking to some of them, be like, hey, do you mind if I use your pictures to post on my page? And a lot of them like, yeah, obviously they wanted the exposure too. And like, I got a couple of selling points, you know, I'm like, you know, LeBron James follows, The Weeknd follows. Like, oh, yeah, for sure. Let me
LeBron James is a wrestling fan?
Huge. We'll talk about that in a second. You do not know how many people I found out are wrestling fans because of my page.
No
that I've been able to network
way.
with. Like people that are in the NFL. I don't even know half of them because I'm not a huge sports guy. Like I love hockey and I know basketball, but that's about it. And these guys are like, yo, this guy plays for the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm like, oh, sweet. Like, you know, and I wouldn't even know. And I'm like, oh, that's
well, shout out to my videographer, Rob Ortiz, Mr.
Yeah.
Everything on Instagram.
Yeah, give him a follow. He's a cool story too.
Yeah. What is it? It's Mr. Everything with a number 1 instead of an I.
Yeah, give him a follow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then anyways, I started
Wait, he's a former NFL player, to finish my thought.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Anyway, so I started adding girls into it. And then I started kind of being very, kind of after my girlfriend found out, I was like, okay, we got to tone down what girls we pick on stuff. And I told them, like, this is the method behind it because this is how it works. Like, so those, at some points, those are like some of the most saved posts and some of the most...
Oh, don't I know it? Can I just tell you I'm a little weirded out by people archiving my selfies?
Yeah, it's weird.
Like, thank you.
I was telling him actually earlier, I was showing him, like, when I posted you, I'm like, she's gotten like the most action of people tapping your name.
Oh, really?
Out of recent history, because a lot of the girls I post now are the same ones over and over. Because as I've been doing, I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna post people I kind of know and I have built relationships with, and now I kind of try to find people. Like a lot of the models I post now, and like, shout out to them, like shout out to the ones I post now, because it's because I've had conversations with them and I kind of know what their goals are, and I'm really big on like I want to do things with people that are trying to do things. You know?
Yeah.
If I'm just giving someone a shout out and they're just trying to be like a thought on Instagram, like that was what we did once upon a time. And don't get me wrong, there's still girls that reach out to me and they'll be like, how much do you charge for me to be posted? And I'll be like, okay, yeah, you know, if you're gonna pay me, sure.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
damn.
Yeah, and that's honestly, that happens a lot. Like I have girls around this DM me a picture of themselves and like, can you post me on your page? And they'll be from like the Netherlands. And I'm like, oh, there's that one girl I posted from the Netherlands. So she must have saw it. Now, like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, hey, so like, this is how much you know what I mean? But the girls I post now is like, it's because I've either built kind of like friendships or relationships with them where like, I also want to support them. Like, I know they're trying to be like actresses or they're trying to be singers or they have other passions and drives that they're doing creatively where I'm like, yeah, I support that. You're not just trying to be an Instagram model. Like you're trying to do something. And I think, you know, if I can help you out, then yeah, I'll share the wealth that way.
Yeah. No, it was really cute. You just posted me out of the blue.
But you're doing something cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that means a little bit more to me now than just posting any random girl. But yeah, girls are on the page. It works. A lot of people sometimes will ask me like, well, how do you post girls that have nothing to do with wrestling? I'm like, you must just started following the page because this has been a thing since like 2015. And then I get, you know, when I meet people in person, like, you know, when I meet people in person, that makes sense. Yeah. And I go and I'm like, and a common question I like to ask is just kind of like feedback, like, what do you like about the page? Like, what is it about the page that you like? And obviously they're like, you know, the old school clips, or like, you know, you keep me up to date. Like, I don't even watch Raw, but I watch your highlights. Like, I get those, but I'll also get the, dude, and the girls you post, man. Like, I got a girlfriend, so like I can't follow them and stuff. But like you're a wrestling page, so like dope, man. I'm like, sorry, so you can't get in trouble. Okay.
Oh my god.
Not gonna lie, but sometimes I show his account to some of my friends, and the first thing they notice is the girls like, oh, and then sometimes they don't care about the wrestling, but they'll follow for the girls, and it just.
And then it's so funny because I'll have girls who now like I'm friends with, and they're like, yo, like this wrestler followed me, and I'm like.
Dope.
They're like, Hulk Hogan was liking my pictures. I'm like, there you go.
Oh my God. I got to tell you, like, before I was even into wrestling, I wanted to dress up as Hulk for Halloween because I saw the cutest, like, yellow. Well, I just saw someone else dress up as Hulk with, like, the mustache. It was a guy, though. So I'm like, how do I make this cute?
Yeah.
You know, but like some yellow bike
could do it,
shorts and like a
110%.
yellow sports bra or something.
If you ever need advice, I can help you out. I'll tell you
Oh
how to do
my
it.
God, that might be my costume this year, guys. We should do a poll.
I've seen so many wrestling costumes over the years because when it comes around Halloween time, like everyone's sending me their costumes to post. This is a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And everybody enjoys seeing it, and it's cool, man. So I've seen a lot. I got ideas. Don't worry.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll talk. We will talk. Okay, on that note, I want to do a Titan CBD toast. So Titan CBD, my sponsor, you guys, very big news. I've been talking about them for a long time, and they are finally launched. So you can go to titancbd.com and type in Jenna for an extra 10% off, promo code Jenna. And we're going to do a little sample. I want to get your guys' opinion. Okay, so this bag right here is the Relief. And it comes with this like serving spoon. So this is the suggested amount. We kind of played with the dose a little bit because I was like, listen, Dave, who's the CEO, I'm like, you can't be knocking out my guest mid-show. This is not, but it's really good. I've taken it for anxiety if I've been really stressed about something or like gym ailments.
Yeah.
It's actually been helpful for arthritis and like joint pain. And, you know, I'm talking to people every day who like have tried it for different things.
I'll say, like, I know I got really bad anxiety sometimes and I can't sleep. I'm like the worst person to like, I can't fall asleep some nights.
Yeah, it's good at night.
And CBD is something that has helped and like, you know, it's good, man. And if you do get really, and I think nowadays, just the society we live in with social media and everything, I think there's a lot of like people that feel like they're got a ton of anxiety or they get, you know, depressed or whatever. And it happens to all of us. I'm not saying that in like a blah blah way.
Yeah,
but, you know,
of
like
course.
I think it's more common. Mental health seems like a more common thing now than it ever has.
Well, are we just talking about it more is the question.
Well, that's what I actually was thinking this to myself yesterday. My brain never turns off. This is CBD will probably help. But I was like, is mental health just talked about more often, or is it actually more of an issue because the way things change? So I'm like, obviously I can't compare it to when I was a child, but I'm like, when I was a child and I didn't have a phone and I'd just be playing outside and hanging out with my friends, I wasn't stressed out about anything. But now, like, I have to have my phone and I'm trying to watch something and I'm trying to drive somewhere and then I feel like I'm so stressed. I'm like, is it just because we have all this technology that's making us more stressed out? Like,
my opinion on the matter is that we as a society are more aware of what's happening with our bodies.
Yeah.
And it's also more acceptable to talk about. But I think that there's also more pressure to fit in. You know, the internet has created this extra, like, it's like
approval that you need.
But anyway, we're going to focus on the positive today, honey, because we got
CBD.
some Titan CBD in the house, and I'm curious to get your guys' opinion.
For
So,
sure.
cheers.
Cheers.
And so it's sublingual. So you basically put it under your tongue
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
and then let it melt. And you're going to start to feel a little something.
It was a cool experience, like Pop Box.
Uh-huh.
I like it.
Oh. All right. I want pop.
I always love watching the reactions of my guests.
I would do it just for the experience.
Oh my god, dude! This is great.
Okay. So I'm actually taking Justin out tonight because he's
Those are gonna
only
be some
in
different kind
town.
of shots.
Those are going to be some different kind of shots. Everyone knows I love Tito's. I've been
you're
on
a
it.
tequila drinker? Mm-hmm. Oh man,
You don't like Tito's?
I can do it.
What do you drink?
I've had bad experiences.
With vodka, really? Normally you hear tequila.
Yeah, I feel like vodka. I can drink anything. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like vodka creeps on you. I feel like it's one of those situations where I feel like I'm perfectly fine, then like I get up or I step outside, I'm like, whoa, what just happened here?
Okay, so what are you guys feeling right now?
The party.
Party in your mouth?
It really is.
It's a party.
All
I kind
right.
of want to do it again just for the experience.
Yeah, it's. I don't
So-
know. I use the oil, and it's cool, but it's not a party.
I'm more on the gummy side of things, but this is like a better experience.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll definitely get you guys some samples.
sweet.
Yes, and for those of you listening, go to titancbd.com and type in the promo code Jenna, Jenna, to get your 10% discount. And there's more products that are being launched in the next 3 to 4 weeks. They're coming up with all kinds of cool stuff in different flavors. So I'm excited for them. A little background on the company. They've been around. So the CEO is a scientist and he has a DEA approved lab in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And so he's been dealing with this stuff for a long time. So he figured out his own formula that like bypasses all the junk. You know, it's clean for your body, and I'm already starting to feel it kick in.
I feel that too, but I want to say, I'm like, am I like
I know.
or something? Or
I might be
So
used to it.
I had to yell at Dave a little bit because I'm like, Dave, I'm like, you can't put me to sleep on my show. I have to be like alert, you know. But so you know, I toned down my dose a little bit because I can't do the suggested amount. But
I was pretty stressed out today because I lost my glasses, but
yes, oh my God, poor Dustin's been walking around a little blind.
A little half blind, so this is kind of calming me down because there's a little bit of a process this morning.
Okay, so Justin, I want to know, what have you learned about people as your Instagram page gains traction? Because I know with, you know, the presence of the show and then my page, I've certainly seen a different side of people. And I've gotten a lot of DMs from people asking, you know, to be on the show and really just kind of wanting to be my friend. Has that been your experience?
Oh, 100%. I actually had a guy get mad at me yesterday because I literally just got off the plane in Burbank Airport and I lost my glasses. And
I'm so glad you flew into Burbank, by the way.
And I was calm. Don't worry, I was calm.
Oh,
I'm a calm person. I don't panic. But I was really frustrated. You know what I mean? So someone DM'd me like, hey, man, do you mind checking out this shirt design? Like, da-da-da-da-da. And I just, you know, I looked at it. And I was going to go back and look at it later. But right now, I'm
but you left him on red.
Yeah. And they're like, wow, you used to be so much nicer back in the day. And I'm like, what?
Oh, my God. I can't with the double message.
And I'm like,
it's like, I'll get to it. You know?
Like, I'm still a nice guy. I haven't changed. I'm just kind of angry now. And I'm like explaining to him what I'm doing. And I'm like, why am I even explaining this to you? Like, you don't need this explanation. He's like, oh, I get it. But like, I guess that's the thing. I think there's a level of expectations that people have of me now. Because kind of this persona that I've built online, it's not that I'm so different than the person I'm online, but like I could really be having a really bad day and I wouldn't be sharing that online. You know what I mean? So like, I think, and and wrestling fans generally range from a wide range of ages, you know, like kids at the age of 6 years old to men in like their 50s still watching wrestling.
Interesting.
And
okay.
So like, in certain scenarios, like obviously if I'm at a bar and I meet a bunch of wrestling fans that are older, it's different, or you know what I mean? But like, sometimes I don't know how to react when someone's like older or like around my same age and they're excited to see me because it makes, and then I don't understand why anyone's excited to see me.
Yeah.
We were talking about this before. Like, I don't really get the whole influencer thing. Am I an influencer? Am I not an influencer?
Oh yeah, we were taking photos before, and he was like, "Oh, influencer life," talking about someone else. I'm like, "What do you mean you're an influencer?"
Because I get the term. Like maybe I have influence on people and like, you know how they think about wrestling and you know stuff like that. But I'm like, am I an influencer? Like, I feel like I'm more like an advocate for wrestling. More than really anything else.
But you are, I think the definition of an influencer is someone who sort of has a job from social media.
Yeah.
Right? Like you've been able to monetize it. It's actually like you have scheduled posts. There are things you need to do to accommodate your sponsors. So that I think that makes you an influencer.
I guess so. It just seems, I never thought of myself. Someone's like, are you an influencer? I'm like, I don't know, man.
See, I'm not an influencer.
I'm on there a lot more. If I'm showing myself there a lot more and I'm like talking, and I do that. I do a lot of live streams. I do the podcast. Every now and then if I go to shows and stuff, I'll be posting pictures of me there and stuff. I'm like more of it's just content of wrestling and me giving my opinion on it. It's not like, you know, when I think of influencers, I think of like the YouTubers and stuff that are like really out all the time, vlogging all the time. And I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah,
like,
it's a lot of work.
Maybe 5 years ago when I was younger, I'd probably be able to, but now I'm older and I'm like, I don't want to be on the camera all the time. And talk. And not that I'm against anyone that does, it's just not me. Like I'm moody. I'm a moody person in real life. Like I'm not as happy-dappy as I seem on social media all the time.
Do you say you're a moody person?
Like sometimes you can
stop eating meat.
Fluctuates.
I can tell you. I was just talking to my friend. Shout out to Claudia Extra Hot on Instagram.
Yeah.
We're doing this 7-day challenge right now. I've been vegetarian for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
But she's giving it a shot for 7 days and then working out twice a day and just eating unprocessed foods. And she's like, well, what are the benefits of becoming vegetarian?
Yeah.
The first thing I said to her was like, my mood is more stable. You know, like I don't have those like spikes.
Maybe you should try that out.
And I'm less tired and my skin is better. And I know this is kind of a weird one, guys, but like you just smell really good when you're vegetarian.
Makes sense. I feel like when you eat meat, you sweat, and then like, you know, like,
it's not just the sweat; it's like the smell from like the meat. Like think about like, okay.
No, I get it. I get what you're getting at. If you don't get it, you'll get it.
If you don't get it, you'll get it.
You'll get it. You know what you don't know, you now know. But yeah, no, like the expectations of people. Like I've met people that were really excited to see me, and it blows my mind.
It's so cute, right?
I like it. Like I honestly I love it when it's a kid. When a kid comes up to me and he's like, and their dad's like, yo, like one, and some of the compliments I get is like they really touch me. Like I've had someone be like, yo, like me and my kid bond so much because of your page. Like now we watch wrestling together all the time. And that was because of your page and this and that. Or I'll have a kid be so excited to meet me and like. I remember one time it was so upset. That's what I mean. Like situations, like people need to remember that we're all humans and we go through situations. I was really hungover. Okay.
Oh God.
So like the night, so we flew into New Orleans. Let me tell you guys the not glamorous side that you guys don't see about my hustle of trying to make this grow. Okay. So everyone always sees the glamorous side. They see me hanging out with the wrestlers, they're doing interviews, they're trying to do a podcast, or like how did he do this? It wasn't easy. Like. I tried to apply for Media Row for WrestleMania. I'm like, I got enough followers, like maybe I can go there and interview people. They denied me the week of WrestleMania, meaning I did not plan a trip at all. Everything, hotels, everything skyrocketed in price. I hit a couple of buddies out there. I'm like, listen, I will, because someone that works in the WWE is like, at least come out here and I'll try to get you in to do this and that. Opportunity. I'm always, if there's an opportunity, what I've learned I once had an opportunity, I'm jumping around, but I once had an opportunity to do a podcast with Bret Hart, okay? This was in 2015-16. The whole Hart family, I love them to death. They're all super sweet. I've become like friends with them. They come to Vancouver. I take them out. They're great. Bret Hart was one of my favorite wrestlers when I was a kid. When I went to go meet him when I was 6 years old, I cried and my mom helped me and I didn't even actually go meet him, but I was there. Like I have a thing that's not even signed.
Why did you cry?
Because he was like my hero.
And you were excited to see him?
I was overwhelmed. Oh,
I love that.
So when and I became friends with the sons as I got older. They followed the page, became friends. Like, yo, we want to do a podcast with my dad. Are you like? We want you to host it. Are you down with that? At that time, I've never done anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, give me some time. Let me think about it. And in that time, they started doing it with someone else. That was the first time I'm like, oh, if something comes up, just jump into it.
Just
do it. If you don't know what you're doing, just do it. You'll figure it out. Way.
Yeah.
And my entire journey, everything I've done has literally been like, I'll figure it out along the way.
Right.
I came into here not knowing, like, I'm like, I'll just talk. We'll see what happens. Like,
right.
Everything is just figuring out along the way. And I think people don't take that risk. And I learned that from failure. And I think people are scared to fail. And I think that's one thing that people need to get out of your mind. Like, be ready to fail because failure is the best. Because when you fail, when you try to do it again, you know what mistakes you made and you'll do it better. So I was going to go to New Orleans. I'm like to my buddies, I'm like, listen, I'm just going to come out there. I don't have a hotel or anything. I'm like, let me pitch in for you guys a hotel. I'll sleep on the floor, okay? Because they had 4 guys in a room already and there's 2 beds. I'll sleep on the floar. Yeah. And they're like, and shout out to Mitch, guys. I love you guys. You guys are dope. We've gone to a ton of wrestling shows since then. And I only knew Mitch. I didn't even know his friends. So this was like awkward just generally. Like I knew Mitch, me and Mitch were friends, and I was going to meet his friends after this event because I was like, yo, I'll sleep on you guys' floor. He's like, you know what? Don't worry about pitching. Just make sure there's beer in the room at all times.
Okay.
And honestly, I'm like, listen. Done. Because beer in America is cheap. Like your guys' 24 case is like half the price of a 24 case in Canada.
Wow. So is that all alcohol or just
all
beer?
All alcohol.
Wow. Okay.
Like, what's $13 here is like $18, $19 over there.
Interesting.
But so then I was like, okay, done. So I go there and they wouldn't even get, like the hotel wouldn't give us a cotton. So I literally was like sleeping on sheets and a pillow on the floor. Okay. And then, so the first night I got there though, we go to Wale Mania. Okay. So Wale, like the rapper Wale, holds a wrestling event, like an event, like in a bar club event where there's a couple of live podcasts, then he performs and there's a VIP section of all the wrestlers and the people that are VIP and whatnot. Right. So he holds this event every year, a WrestleMania weekend. And if you guys have never been to Wally Mania and you're going to WrestleMania in Tampa this year, definitely check it out. It's a blast. It's always a good time.
You're going?
I'm hopefully going. So we went to Wally Mania. We just bought normal entry level tickets, so we wouldn't be VIP. We couldn't go in there. And my buddy Mitch snuck into the VIP section.
Right.
Like he just like snuck in and he's on this. I was like, hey, I'm like, what the hell, right? Like I was offended almost, right? And it's New Orleans, okay? So we were on Bourbon Street all morning kind of drinking. It was my first day. I'm like, today I get lit. The rest of the week is going to be like professional, right? So I was already kind of drunk, like annoying drunk. And I'm like, well, why can't I sneak? And I started like arguing with the security guard. I'm like, just let me in. I'm like, my buddy's like, he's like, you're just mad you're not in here. I'm like, watch, I'm going to get in there and you won't be able to get me out. Because, I don't know, I guess my ego was talking. I was intoxicated. And I guess like a month before that, I did an interview with an old backstage interviewer for the WWE in the 80s and the early 90s, Sean Mooney. We did a live stream interview together and stuff through the Wrestling Classic, and I saw him at the bar, and I looked at him, and I'm like, hey, and he's recognized me right off the bat, and he's like, oh hey, and I'm like, and he kind of like opened the gate and I just went in, and it's the wildest thing, and this is what I mean, like, I've been a wrestling fan my entire life, and if you told me like when I was graduating high school or something, like I'd be hanging out with the people I watched on TV and they would know who I am, I would be like, okay, you're crazy. But I go back there and everybody I walked by, I was like, oh, you're the Wrestling Classic guy.
Yeah.
I had no wristband to be back. Nobody was kicking out. I think someone tried and they're like, no, he's allowed to stay. He's one of us. And so I'm like, oh, this is sweet. I'm out there having shots with like Marty Scurll and Jake Maverick and of the WWE now. I'm hanging out with Smoke Dizza and Rob Van Dam, and Smoke Dizza's pumping me up to Rob Van Dam. I'm on stage while Wale's performing and I'm like dancing and stuff, and you know, and everyone's like, oh, it's you, like that. I'm like, oh, imagine I didn't come out and take that risk of like sleeping on the floor to be out in New Orleans just to be here for WrestleMania weekend. And then what was promised to me never happened. And the next day, so I go to WrestleCon instead, and that was the opposite of what I was supposed to do. So I'm very hungover. I go to WrestleCon, and this little kid comes up to me, so excited to meet me with his dad. And I was so hungover, and I didn't know how to react.
Yeah.
But it just made me, it was very humbling to see a little kid being so excited and stuff.
Yeah.
And then to make everything go full circle, I wasn't supposed to go to WrestleCon. I go to WrestleCon, and I see, oh, I'm like, Ric Flair's here, Bret Hart's here. I'm like, oh, Bret Hart's here. And I kind of walk by, and I'm wearing a Wrestling Classic t-shirt, and I wave, and he looks at my shirt, and he's like, oh, you, right? And then I stand in line, like I thought I was supposed to. Like, I'm just standing in line, I'm going to go meet Bret Hart.
Yeah.
And I just happened to wear this Bret Hart Stone Cold jacket from WrestleMania 13, made by Chalkline, shout out to Chalkline, but my favorite match of all time. And I didn't realize, I didn't even think about it. And someone's like, oh, are you going to get that signed? I'm like, oh, that's a smart idea. I should get this signed. And I was standing in line, and Bret walks by, and he sees me again. He's like, dude, why are you standing in line? And he took me to the front, and we're just having a regular conversation. He knew exactly where it was. He's like, oh, thank you for taking, Dallas out when he was in Vancouver. He said he had a great time. That's his son. And I'm like, I went from crying meeting this kid when I was a kid.
Oh, my God. I just got chills.
To him pulling me out of the line, knowing me by name.
Yeah.
And wanting to hang out with me. Like, literally want to hang out with me. Like, the lady, after he wrote his name on the jacket, was trying to pull it away and move things along. He's like, no. And he's like, best match ever. Like, he wrote more, and they're like only, like supposed to only sign their name and stuff. And I'm like, and he hung out with me for a little bit. I'm like, that's so cool. So, like, honestly, anything's possible, guys. I'm serious. Like, if you are passionate about something, you like something a lot. Like, I've always loved wrestling. Like, regardless, anytime I was in school or work, like, when I was taking marketing, I was like, how could I do marketing for wrestling? Like, how could I work for the WWE doing marketing? If I was anything, I was just always in the back of my mind, like, how could I work for the WWE? How could I do that? But then I built something of my own by accident because my ex-girlfriend didn't want me to have Instagram. And
Thank you, Justine.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to take the last few minutes of the show to talk about some of the folks that have transitioned from either MMA to wrestling or vice versa. And we have some big names. There's Ronda Rousey, Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, Cain Velasquez, Jack Hager, Ken Shamrock, brother to Frank Shamrock, who's one of my besties. Shout out.
There you go.
But then there's also, the Josh Barnetts and,
hell yeah,
Shayla Baszler and Matt Riddle.
Shayna Baszler's going to be in a huge match this WrestleMania. That tells you how much she's transitioned.
Oh, yeah. And she's the reason that Ronda Rousey even got into wrestling, right?
100%. Shayna was the wrestling fan out of their 4 horsewomen group.
Yeah.
She was the major wrestling fan. And all 4 of them are in there. Marina's in there, Jessama Duke, Shayna Baszler, and Ronda Rousey. All 4 of them are in the WWE now, contracted by them. But yeah, she was the biggest wrestling fan. I got to see her live a ton of times before she made it to the WWE. And she was actually working that independent circuit. Like, she's like a bad, scary chick.
And
she got in there, like, paying her dues. She went the long way. She worked the indies. She worked the crowds in front of 20, 30 people, She did it. She did the whole deal. And this year she's having a huge match against the man Becky Lynch, which is, last year Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, and Charlotte main evented WrestleMania. It was the first time women ever main evented WrestleMania.
Amazing.
And the biggest credit to that, credit to all 3 of them, don't get me wrong, but the drawing power of Ronda Rousey because she came from MMA.
Right.
Yeah. And I think if I was going to give my opinion, I think this whole women's revolution in the WWE, where they started pushing women more and focusing on women's wrestling, was because they saw what Ronda Rousey did.
Interesting.
For women in fighting.
In UFC.
Yeah, like she was like almost, I don't know, you tell me because you know about MMA, but for someone, even people that didn't watch MMA knew who Ronda Rousey was, she was symbolic for women empowerment in my mind.
Sure.
She broke barriers. She was doing stuff that people weren't, for years, MMA was like just dudes pounding each other, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but everyone knew Ronda Rousey.
Right. I mean, and then there's women like Chris Cyborg, who I adore on a personal level and respect on a professional level. But, I mean, she tried out for WWE, and then like nothing really like panned out there.
Yeah. I also think sometimes and I don't know for sure, like I said, I don't have that information, but I think also when that happens is also because I think people think wrestling is a lot easier than it really is.
Right.
And also the schedule. That being on the road all the time thing isn't for everyone. Like I give a lot of credit to Ronda Rousey because not only did she come from MMA to WWE, but for that first year she was there, she did the full schedule. She was at all the house shows. She was on the road the entire time.
It's a lot.
She didn't come back and do, because being the celebrity that she was, she totally had the option to be like, no, I want to be part-time. I just want to work the TV shows. And like she could have.
Right.
But she did the full thing. Like she wanted to be on the road. She wanted to have the lifestyle that everyone else in that locker room
She earned
had.
the respect.
Oh, 100%.
And the thing about wrestling I'm learning is that like the fans are super loyal, but there's like a respect level. Like you commit to it, and then you have respect for the sport, and like you kind of make it your lifestyle, and then the fans come, but like if you're you kind of half-ass it.
Wrestling fans will call out people so fast.
Yes.
They're so that's what I mean. Like they're so analytical. Sometimes it hurts wrestling, but they're so analytical and quick to call somebody out.
Yeah.
We feel entitled. That's the problem with wrestling fans. We're entitled. We want things the way we want it. We don't understand why things aren't going the way we want. And if someone's coming in, we want them to work just as hard as the guys that are there all the time. And we're just the fans.
Right.
But that's how we feel.
Calling the shots.
You know what I mean? Like, no, like sometimes people get mad about Brock Lesnar because he came back.
Right.
To wrestling after he left in 2004 and he came back to wrestling in 2012. And he's super part-time. He only works so many dates a year.
Yeah.
And sometimes he's a champ, and that makes wrestling fans mad. But
he recently re-signed with WWE in like the last 2 months, right?
Yeah, he's always.
But aren't they like, so WWE and UFC, what they have in common is that top tier, number one, and number two, they like exclusive contracts. So how is it that he's getting away with this, back and forth?
I don't know him personally, and I'm only speaking off what my opinion is and my perspective is that if we've learned anything about Vince McMahon in the past, 3 decades or whatever, it's going to make money, he'll do it. Brock's an attraction. There's a lot of people that used to watch wrestling maybe, and then when WrestleMania comes around the corner, like they can't name maybe like 4 or 5 stars that are on the current roster.
Right.
But they're like, oh, Brock Lesnar's on? Okay, maybe I'll come by and watch it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He's like a household name.
Yeah, like he's someone people know, and that's because he went to MMA and because he made a name somewhere else and then came back. And I think the WWE loves that. If someone leaves, if they start someone, because they started Brock, they made Brock a little bit of a star. He left, became a bigger star.
Right.
And then if he comes back and he has like star power from something else, why wouldn't they take advantage of that?
Right.
Like, do you think they're upset that The Rock is so busy making movies? No, they love it because when they can bring The Rock back, someone that was homegrown in the WWE, like that's beneficial to them. He's like,
do you think that'll happen?
Name. He always comes back. He always makes surprise appearances out of nowhere.
Oh my God, I love The Rock.
His daughter just entered the Performance Center.
Yes, I just read that.
Yeah, it's just she's wrestling. I think and they did a whole video of The Rock at the Performance Center, like I'm like that. Obviously, The Rock's a man. I have no disrespect to The Rock, but like, I'm like, that's the first time we've seen him at the Performance Center because his daughter's there. But
right.
Like, that's good for them. That's a good thing. Like looking at
that's what
I try to do. Let's try to look at the positive thing. Like, yeah, we can sit there and be like, he never used to go there before his daughter was there, but like, who cares if it's because his daughter's there? At least he's there. Like, that's a good thing for everyone there.
You know who else has been spotted at the Performance Center recently?
Who?
Tito Ortiz.
Yeah, Tito Ortiz.
For the last 2 weeks, maybe.
And he actually has a background in wrestling. He's wrestled. He's been in a wrestling ring before.
Yeah, he's a beast. And he's a really good talker. I mean, he's got that performance aspect that wrestling really needs in addition to the training.
No, 100%. I think, and a lot of that it's so funny because what transcended from boxing into wrestling was like in the early days, like people were so fascinated by like, like boxers were so fascinated by wrestling. Like Muhammad Ali would say like he used to love Gorgeous George, and that's why he cut promos like that with that personality. And like I say, even with Instagram pages, I'm like, you need to have a personality. You need to be something. And then people remember more. And I think that's also happened in UFC.
Have an identity.
Yeah, and I think that happened in UFC. A lot of people, Conor McGregor's one of those guys where like, he's taking that wrestling aspect of building a character for yourself rather than just being a fighter. Like, yeah, he's a great fighter, but he's this character, he's a persona. Like people that don't even watch MMA are like, oh, Conor McGregor, that guy that's, talks all this shit and walks like this. Like,
I was at the press conference for his last fight, and this reporter got up and asked a question about his fine. Yeah. And there were a ton of Conor fans in the stadium, and this reporter got booed. He couldn't even finish the second half of his question.
Why? 'Cause
And
he was
even
asking about
Dana,
that?
I mean, yeah, because the fans were like, leave him alone, like get
Yeah.
off his back. And then even Dana White was like he tried to let him finish his
Yeah.
question, but then he was like, you know what? That was already covered yesterday. He's like, sit your ass down.
No, it's crazy.
I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad for this guy right now. But Connor fans are like
They're
diehard.
loyal.
Yeah.
But that's because they have a connection to him. And you know how people can have a connection with you? When you're a person. That's when they feel connected. When they feel like, oh, I kind of know this person. I know who they are.
And his facial expression, by the way, when the fans were booing, he was sitting like this. Like, imagine, guys, like being leaned back in your seat.
Yeah.
And then his face was just, he like had like a slight nod. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what's up. Like, he's like, I don't even need to say a word. My fans
He
got me.
doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's because he's figured out a way to be a larger than life character, and that's what wrestling is. Hulk
Yeah.
Hogan is just a larger than life character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
all it is. And people take that from wrestling. They're very flamboyant and they're colorful in the way they talk and they build this persona. And that's what people love. That's what I've always been about. I always say, like, I love the in-ring stuff, but I've always been about the storylines and characters. I've been booking since I was a kid. I want to be drawn in. I will care about the in-ring stuff more if it comes to the stories and characters. But also on the MMA side, like, John Jones, has been rumors about him wanting to get in there.
Interesting.
Obviously, he's had a relationship with Brock Lesnar, so a lot of, I was pitching, once again, fantasy booking. I'm like, it'd be cool to have him involved in
Yeah.
Brock's matches, WrestleMania, maybe being an enforcer or a referee or something. Daniel Cormier, like, he's a huge wrestling fan.
Yeah.
He's seen in the crowd at all those shows that he's around. Was also spoke about wanting to get into wrestling. So there is a huge crossover between the two.
Right.
And coming in with some stock always helps.
So I love that Ken Shamrock is still fighting or
He's-
still wrestling.
It's crazy because he's like the first one, I think, that made that MMA to wrestling jump back in 1996.
So Ken Shamrock, the world's most dangerous
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
and he's known for his crazy faces. He's a natural performer.
Yeah, no. And he's still good at it. Like, he just recently wrestled for Impact Wrestling a couple months ago, and he hasn't lost a step. If you've ever listened to him on podcasts or, like, read any of his stuff, like, he's been a lifelong wrestling fan. And then a lot of these guys that are in MMA were wrestling fans beforehand. So to have the opportunity to jump in the ring and, like, do something on a Monday Night Raw show they probably watched when they were kids and stuff too, like, it's super cool for them,
I'll tell you something about Ken Shamrock that you may not already know.
What's that?
He used to be a stripper.
Was he? Wait, I think I heard that.
Yeah.
That's
So he used to
crazy.
be a stripper. And I know this because his brother, Frank Shamrock, came
Yeah.
on the show
Yeah.
and talked about his life story as we do on the Jenna Ben show. And, when Frank was released from prison
Yeah.
at a young age, he committed a lot of crimes. And, his dad, his adopted dad, whose name he took after, because Shamrock wasn't his birth name, he picked him up from jail and he was like, listen, here are your options. You can either be a stripper or you can be an MMA fighter. He's like, you're built right now. Because
Yeah.
Frank came out looking, as Hika Machado says, like a Greek god. You
Yeah.
know, he was super built and like he had the hair and
Yeah.
whatever. And he's like, all right, well, I'm not comfortable with stripping like my brother. But yeah. So
That's
yeah,
insane.
Ken did that.
Now I'm thinking about I feel like I've heard that before, but it wasn't in my
Like a
mind.
little
That's
Magic Mike
nice.
situation.
Yeah. Shout out to Ken Shamrock.
All right, guys,
World's
how are
most
you
dangerous man.
feeling? Yeah, right. How are you feeling on Titan CBD right now?
Great. I'm loving it.
Yeah. Do you actually feel a
I
difference?
feel less nervous than before we started this interview.
Okay.
Yeah, so that says a lot.
A little relaxed. I mean, for someone who does it regularly, I'm wondering, do you feel any type of difference on Titan versus any other CBD you try? And what would that difference be, if anything?
I think I felt it a lot faster.
It did, right. So the sublingual mechanism, like when you put it under your tongue, that's one of the fastest ways to get it into your body.
Yeah.
And okay, yeah. And what do you think?
Under the tongue goes straight into the bloodstream, right? It's
Yeah.
just quicker.
It's quicker. I mean, it's
And also the experience was fun.
The experience was amazing.
The whole pop rock experience.
It's like Pop Rocks, but better than Pop Rocks.
Yeah.
Because it popped for a while.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to talk. I was just sitting there.
I know. I noticed.
Yeah, no, it was great.
So sometimes, I'll have it before I go out too. And so the mixture between the alcohol buzz and then the CBD buzz is kind of cool.
Yeah, the older I get, the less I like being in crowds and going out. And I don't know what happened. Before I loved to be a part of the party, and now sometimes this would help to be going into that element of okay, we're gonna go talk to a bunch of people who want to do this, But yeah.
All right. Well, we are wrapping up the show, guys. I want to give a quick shout out to Blake Troop, Bulletproof Troop. If you don't already know, He is one of the people I talk to about wrestling and MMA stuff, since he's kind of like a diehard fan. He's a pro fighter. He has his fight on March 13th with Lights Out Extreme Fighting, and they're selling tickets now. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Give us your Instagram handles one more time.
You can follow me at The Wrestling Classic. If you want to follow my personal, it's just Justin Dhillon. Also, guys, thewrestlingclassic.com. Just, read some reviews and stuff. TWC Shop if you guys want some merchandise. The merchandise is when I realized I had to put myself out there with my face and stuff because people were wearing my shirts.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, oh, are you The Wrestling Classic? And someone's like, yo, a bunch of people asked me if I was The Wrestling Classic. And I'm like, oh, that's a problem. I gotta be a person now. People are asking.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to rock some Wrestling Classic merchandise, TWCshop.com. A bunch of people rocked and repped it for me. Even Carmella wore it on Total Divas. So shout out to Carmella.
Nice.
But, check out TWC Worldwide for that. And of course, last but definitely not least, be sure to subscribe to the TWC show everywhere you can listen to podcasts and soon Dash Radio, man. It's gonna be
Yeah. You guys are going to see more of Justin and I together. We're going to kind of fine tune how we'll make this happen. But, I will have some wrestlers on the show.
Sweet.
And, we'll probably do some collabs. So,
No, 100%.
yes. And what's your Instagram?
My Instagram is t.nijar, Nijjar. All I do is post cars and food, pretty much. I don't like to post my face too much, but a lot of cars, a lot of food.
And maybe some babes taking a page out of Justin's playbook.
He's around some pretty cool cars a lot of the time.
Okay.
I don't know how, but it happens.
We got to get DJ Ski's cars on your page. He's got some dope
There
ones.
you go. And some already have his phone number, so you.
There you go. And a big thank you to Rob Ortiz, my videographer. You guys, my YouTube channel, The Jenna Ben Show, it's kind of brand new. I really haven't invested a ton in getting stuff out there, but people constantly hit me up about, we love listening to your show. Is there anywhere where we can actually see video of it? And now, I have a full video production team, and you can see the shows on
Like we started my show as a video thing, and that was getting way more action than people listening at first because they enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, people are very visual today.
Yeah.
I'm learning this.
Yeah.
Okay, so check me out on YouTube, check me out on Instagram, The Jenna Ben Show on both. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. We are on 5 days a week, starting with Tuesdays, all Pacific Standard Times, 8 p.m., Thursday at 9 a.m., Friday at 9 p.m., Saturday at 5 p.m., and Sunday at 7 p.m., all Pacific Standard Times. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I love the DMs and support. Please follow my guests at The Wrestling Classic, and we'll see you next week.